Good evening, everybody. Sorry, my mic was muted there. Good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of the Winter Meetings. I am your host, Seven. With me is my partner in crime, the ever knowledgeable, the ever experienced Craig Newton. How's your week been, buddy?
It's been great. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. It's been a great week. There's been some interesting developments across the league this week.
Yes, there has. Before we jump into that, I wanted to give a quick shout out to two new listeners that are joining us thanks to a Facebook page that I've been following called Vintage Baseball Photos. So, shout out, welcome to Lisa Talamo and Jen Bowen Blackwell. We're glad to have you with us.
Absolutely welcome and thank you. It's been an interesting week. Of course, the hottest topic of the week in that we had Miggy Cabrera get 3,000 hits. He also has over 500 home runs, and with a career batting average of 310, he's one of only 3 players in MLB history to accomplish all 3 over the course of his career. Go ahead.
It's amazing, and we won't see that again, I don't think.
To that extent,
have some thoughts.
I mean, what he's doing with 3,000, over 500, and a 310 batting average, I think you're right. I don't think we'll ever see that again. But I will say, when we start talking about the individual achievement of 3,000 hits, that I think we could see some progress on. I came across this image today on the MLB Twitter that I thought was worth discussion. I don't know why this is coming in the way it is. For those of you that can't read it, which of these players will get to 3,000 hits? We've got, let me make sure that I'm just reading these in the correct order. Upper left is Robinson Cano. He has 2,631 hits over his career. Joey Votto is at 2,035. Jose Altuve is at 1,783, and Freddie Freeman is at 1,722. And then you've got, starting in the bottom left, Mike Trout at 1,431, Juan Soto at 500, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at 390, and Wander Franco at 103. And so I think these are some interesting names, to say the least. I will definitely say that those are some out there, but Votto and Cano were both too damn old, I think. And actually, I think Altuve is as well.
Yes.
So is Mike Trout. Because, I mean, that's just, I think those 4 we can just immediately take out. I think Freddie, because he's 33. You know what? Let me look at his numbers real quick, because I really didn't give him much thought earlier. I'm not going to lie. But part of me is also wondering, because he's at 1722. And he's also only 12 years in. You know, to put into perspective, Miggy did his he's in his 19th season, if I remember correctly. And when you look at his 162 game average, he's averaging 177 hits a year. So we'll just focus on that number first. Over the course of his career, he's averaging 177. When we look at Miggy, who has achieved this and still going, he averages 187 hits a season. And so Freddie is not far off. Now, I was initially looking at this, and Vladdy Jr. stood out to me just because he's already started pretty hot. And he's actually kind of in a similar spot to Freddie in that he's 176 a season. But my argument for why I think it's going to be Vlad is because you have, he's only 4 years in, 3-4 years in major league seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't hit his prime yet. We have to wrap ourselves around that statement, because we have to realize he is still young. He has not hit his prime yet. And as much as it kills me that he's in the same division as my Red Sox, I also can't ignore the fact that dude can rake.
Yep. And he's in a very friendly hitter park too.
Absolutely. And I think that makes a huge difference. There's a lot of benefits to that. It's kind of like if you're able to get down and to spend a large chunk of your career down in Colorado with the Rockies, if you've got the right kind of stroke, you'll be all right.
Yep.
That is definitely a hitter's ballpark. You want proof? Watch the home run derby from this last year.
Yes.
It was ridiculous. Those balls were gliding out of that field. Like, it was ridiculous. And we were talking about this before, and you actually suggested somebody that I really wasn't sure about, but looking at the numbers, he's right in there as well. And that's Juan Soto. Already at 500 plus hits in his career. He is averaging over the 162 game average, my favorite number we're using for this argument. Where did it go? There it is. 168. And you can also make the argument for for Juan Soto, because he's in his 5th major league season, that he hasn't hit that prime yet either.
No. Yeah.
And I think that there's definitely an argument there for him, I think. And then another one that I didn't see mentioned here that I looked at, and I was not surprised to see that he's within breathing distance as well. It wasn't on the graphic, but Acuna Jr. He's already, with 4 years in, and obviously the injuries, he's averaging 175. So, I mean, and I think realistically to get to where, so when you're at 19 seasons, if you want to, we'll say 19 seasons, just because that's what it took for Miggy to do it. And you're trying to get to 3,000. I went to school in Missouri, so I have to use a calculator. Give me a second here. And 19 years, you need to average about 160 a year. So the truth of the matter is, all 4 of those guys, if they have the longevity piece, can hit 3,000.
I think that Freeman is going to miss it because he's 33 now, right?
Yeah, he's 33. He's already at, but he's also only 12 seasons in. So, I mean, that's still 9 years. Hold on. Let's see what we got here. Let's do some math. If I can find a calculator. Okay. So, looking at Freddie's numbers, he's in his 13th season, and he's averaging 177. So he's at 1722. 1722 divided by 12. So he's running about 144, we'll call it, for the, hold on, how many hits has he gotten this year? 18. So yeah, he's averaging about 148, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Or 141, because it would be the other direction. Average about 140, we'll call it. 140 a year. He could fall short. Yeah. But that ballpark that he's in, half of his time, Dodgers ballpark is another hitter-friendly one.
Mm-hmm. Very friendly.
So I think it's very easy to argue, see how the next couple of years go with him in LA before he gets traded, probably back to Atlanta to finish his career. Calling that now, by the way.
I second that.
I that's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
I really think so. But
the advantage Freeman has is that he is so well protected in that lineup.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a big advantage he has that Vlad does not have, and neither does Soto right now.
Well, and the situation is with that lineup in LA, there's really nobody in that lineup you can just try to pitch around.
Right.
And that's one of the things that is going, I know that LA's had some ups and downs so far for the start of the year, but I think that the longevity of that is going to be ridiculous as those batters start wearing these lineups down, these bullpens down time and time and time again. When you get to September, August and September, they are going to be on fire.
Yep.
It's going to be ridiculous. So I think that Freddie could gain some ground this year, but I think he needs to get north of 200 hits this year to make up ground.
Yep.
Realistically.
And also, he's a very good family man.
Yeah.
And so I could see where he may say, I've made all the money I need to make. Generational wealth.
Right.
I want to leave the game on top. Maybe he may decide that he wants to spend more time with the family and leave the game as a player and return later as a manager or a coach down the road. But
I could see him going into broadcasting first. Honestly,
absolutely. I could definitely see that. Yeah. So I mean, his family may decide for him. Maybe a deciding factor for him as far as does he continue to pursue it, and play 19 years.
Absolutely. It's well, I mean, no, and longevity is a question. And that's one of those things is because with these guys, you don't see a lot of guys going 19, 20, 20 plus years. Realistically,
No.
this year, next year will be Miggy's last season.
Yep.
I could honestly see this year being his last season since he's hit what he's hit. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's out of question.
And I think Juan Soto, he's a very grounded young man.
Absolutely.
I don't think that the amazing amount of money he's going to make is going to be a deterrent for. Oh yeah, it's not going to be a deterrent to his devotion and desire to play the game at the highest level.
Right.
He's not going to get burned out by money. I'm saying.
I would say I think a lot of these younger guys are going to start making better choices, especially with in the social media age. These younger generations are definitely, for the most part, starting to be more cognizant of the impact that the things that you do, especially when it comes to what gets seen and the impact that can have on your brand. Watching people get canceled for arguably sometimes the dumbest shit. And they're very cognitively aware of that. And so I think that, and I know that teams have been stepping up their education to younger guys coming in that are getting this money. Hey, when you go out for a night with a chick, make sure that you take that condom with you. Don't just throw it away. Take that with you because they will try some shit. They're getting more detailed about their instructions because they're able to look and see what's happened. Like that young NBA star that was groomed by an Instagram model, got pregnant with his baby and immediately left him and is trying to get $20,000 a month child support. Alleged circumstances around the grooming, but that's the way it looks on a lot of fronts. So I think that, teams are trying to be aware of this because they don't want these young men to be detracted, because when you're investing millions of dollars into these individuals, you expect to see a return on that investment, as you should. It's completely reasonable. But at the same time, part of that means taking time out of, the first couple of years that they're a rookie and they've gotten all this money to say, hey, look, people are going to try and steal your shit in whatever way they can.
Yep. I'm heartened as the old guy here, the sage guy here. I'm heartened. I'm heartened by the fact that these younger players, these mega superstars now, in my humble opinion, they could have played in any era because they really love the game.
Absolutely.
And having talked to a bunch of players that have now since passed on, that played in the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, and all that, you get a sense talking to these men over the years, what it took to play, to play in that era.
Right.
You really had to love the game because you were not making a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And I think Soto and I think Vlad Jr., they love the game.
They do.
And they're going to be no doubt future Hall of Famers. And they keep going on the career path they're going.
Absolutely.
And they're good for the game too. They're good for young kids. They're good, good for people that are watching the game. They're exciting. They're a lot of fun. They're respectful. It gives me hope for the future for baseball, in spite of the owners, in spite of lockouts, in spite of the CBAs, in spite of all the rule changes and everything. I mean, the players get on the field, they play, we watch, and
Yeah. It's did I lose you? Craig? Oh, there we go. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so what were you saying? I'm sorry.
no, those are the players that that I want to watch.
Absolutely. And I think that the players that genuinely love the game, they have that impact on the clubhouse in a good way, because their passion, that kind of passion is very infectious. And when you spend that much time with the same 26 guys every day, day in and day out, you're listening to the same yell, you're listening to the same lectures from the coaches, you're listening to, you're getting all this, for the most part, the same criticism from the sports media when you mess up. So, you end up becoming a band of brothers. It's that unity thing that's key to a team. And those type of guys, usually the ones that are leaders in the clubhouse.
Yep.
They're the ones that will see a problem brewing and take care of it before it becomes a problem.
Yep. I can tell you that back in the day when I was covering the Giants, you walk down the clubhouse and within 5 minutes you've got the temperature of the club for that day or for that series. If they're cracking jokes, if they're just having a good time, that temperature is nice and hot. If you walk in there and there's a cold front, as soon as you walk through the doors, there's problems.
Right.
And players are not good at hiding their emotions, good or bad, in a clubhouse. Right. I mean, that's their safe place to be, to be them, away from the media, away from the fans, just with the players. And you could always tell the temperature. Especially Will Clark was a great temperature gauge in the Giants clubhouse.
There's so many. The dynamic of being on a team at that level is something that I think we as fans sometimes forget, because you look at prime examples of the dynamic of the team having a huge impact on the results. Like if you look in basketball at the LA Lakers, on paper, that roster they had should have won the West. They didn't even make the plan. When you look at, even within baseball, there's examples of teams that on paper should have destroyed, like the Dodgers this year, just like we talked about. If they don't clean house, win their division, make it to at least the they're nationally, right? Yeah, nationally championship, at least the NLCS game, then because of how stacked that lineup is, most people are going to see it as a failure. Their cohesiveness in that dugout, in that clubhouse, is going to be crucial to their success, because you can have we've called it Murderers Row 2.0. You can have that in your clubhouse and lose 90 to 100 games because there's no energy in the clubhouse, or there's bad energy in the clubhouse.
Exactly.
It's not just about having 5 or 6 guys like Miggy or Vlad or Acuna Jr., Soto, Freeman, whatever. It's not just about having 4 or 5 of those guys mixed into your lineup and hoping the other guys hit 250 to build a championship team. You have to have cohesiveness.
Yep.
And I think that we're going to see some teams struggle this year without that, or it taking longer to bind, because that's part of what spring training is getting used to each other. And, the new guys getting into the rhythm and what people do in specific situations, and, learning not just who's in charge, but who's in charge.
Right.
And especially if you've got a lot of new guys coming in, you get that pissing contest going around to see who's in charge. Like, you're going to see a lot of losses.
Or worse yet, nobody steps in to take charge.
And and that's even worse.
Yeah.
Or even situations like when you have, like, I feel legitimately bad for the Cincinnati Reds players right now,
Yeah.
Yes, they got their win today against the Cardinals, which I had picked the Cardinals to win this game. So I cannot get a pick'em streak on MLB 9 innings of more than 2 to save my life.
Yeah.
It's either like one day I actually legit miss my pick, but other than that, it's just been, oh no, this should work. Nope. Like,
Nope.
But anyway, like I legitimately feel bad for those guys because not only do you have the struggles of losing, but you're also getting the energy from that anger from the fans from what Castellini said.
Right. Yeah. Yep. That team is in some serious trouble. Even if they didn't have the injuries, they'd still be in serious trouble. I mean, just because of Castellini. I mean, just his big mouth and black heart, towards the fans.
I don't understand how individuals can get into these roles because, like, for me, like owning a baseball team, like that would be an honor. I would want to build a championship culture because I feel like, those expectations of the team are ultimately on me and doing my part to make sure that they have the resources to be successful. And if I'm not doing that, regardless of the roster, it's my fault.
Yes.
And I don't know if maybe I have too much of a conscience for it, but I think it's absolutely horrible that we have owners like Castellini, like Kendricks, that, like the ownership group for the Marlins, that they give zero fucks. They complain about it not being profitable enough, but it's basically a money printing organization.
Oh,
These
absolutely.
guys are still making money.
I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. We have people fronting as owners that are nothing more than glorified hedge fund owners and hedge fund groups that bought a ball club to strictly make money at the lowest return on investment.
And it shouldn't be like that. I mean, it's kind of like Josie said before. Oh, if you're going to take ownership of a baseball team, there needs to be a commitment to, spending money and building a roster that's going to be competitive. And, there's going to be bad seasons because of injury and unexpected things. I'm completely aware of that.
Yeah.
But owners that don't show commitment to build a competitive product should be forced to sell the team to somebody who will.
Yep, I agree.
It's, as a league, they can, the other owners can band together and force a sale when an owner's conduct is making the league look bad. Castellini, Kendricks, several other owners that are not spending the money they should, the owner of the A's, I can't remember his name, these individuals should be held accountable because it negatively impacts the brand of baseball.
It does. Yep.
But
you're not going to get a majority of owners that are going to agree with us on that.
Well,
all they see is that they're making a lot of money.
Right. Well, and the situation is, the reason this benefits the other owners is the more owners that band up and get these guys all making money, the less that profit share needs to be spread around and the more money they all sit on. And that's and that's what frustrates me is you've got, organizations that have the means to put these things in motion, but they don't have the will.
No.
And that negatively impacts the MLB's brand, negatively impacts the other teams because, when the Yankees go to play the Reds, Vegas is going to favor the Yankees at like 210, 250, somewhere in there as a good line. And if the Yankees win, nobody cares. If the Yankees lose, it's even more anger. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of people, college basketball, there was always that argument about Wichita State getting to play KU because of the quality of Wichita State's basketball program. Okay. And the reason why KU has very rarely agreed to this game is because KU's program is legitimately superior and they have nothing to win by playing what amounts to being a tune-up game for them. Because if they lose, they look horrible. And so I can't, I can't fault their logic on it. And you can't fault the Yankees for not going to play the Reds or the D-backs seriously. Because it's hard to take those teams seriously. It's not the players' fault. It's leadership's fault.
Mm-hmm.
But the players deserve better. And that's what I don't understand. That's I don't get it.
They're just, I don't know. To say they're in the middle is not a good way to describe it. But I mean, the owners have all the money and all the power.
All of it.
Yep. And the players are just playing. Some are playing to leave teams as fast as possible.
And it's pretty bad that that's how you have to incentivize these things to get these players to step that up, because most of the time, like, they don't want, they want to be out of there. But it's like, look, to get out of there, you've got to play your ass off and carry the team, and then get to the point where you can earn that money. So, earn the ability to be paid enough that we have to trade you.
Yeah.
That's a shitty situation to be in.
It's very depressing. Sorry,
like, imagine. No, but I mean, it's just like, think about that from a human perspective. Like, if your company was like, hey, look, we're going to continue to treat you like shit and pay you like shit while you develop the experience and the skill to go to leave us and go somewhere else and get paid better. Even though you deserve that here. Like, what kind of business model is that?
Only one business model, and that's the baseball owners.
I mean, they're running these teams like it's Amazon or Walmart.
Careful.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong, but be careful. We have a show. So yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it's just it's not going to change anytime soon, because they keep making more and more money, and I don't know. It's the cards we're dealt right now.
Cards.
All commons, no stars.
Yeah. So I wanted to do a quick mention. Earlier this week, some of you may have seen where I posted that we have a new mascot for the Winter Meetings podcast. For those of you that missed this post, Jazz Chisholm of the Mariners did Euro step Selly after a home run, and somebody commented with "drill him," and he promptly responded with "drill ya mama." I 100% support that. Like, with every fiber of my being inside. Like, I'm thinking about buying, and he plays for the Mariners, in case anybody's wondering. I think that might be my next jersey, just legitimately because fuck that guy.
As a pitcher, as a former pitcher, I like his chutzpah, but yeah, I would drill him too.
Chutzpah.
I mean,
I like it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about, in the realm of absolutely shitty fans, and this just pisses me off, because you had the New York Yankees fans throwing trash after a walk-off win last night or yesterday, and Yankee Stadium, and I am trying to pull up a video without a bunch of people's content. Now, to the Yankees' credits, there were a couple of players, I believe it was Stanton and one other, that ran out.
Aaron Judge.
Yeah, Stanton and Judge that ran out, and okay, I can't find a video where I don't know. I can't vet the audio. So, but yeah, we had some Yankees fans throwing trash on the field yesterday at the Guardians after they got the walk-off win. And I know that there was some arguments between some of the fans and out there and one of the Guardians players. And apparently, and this had started a little bit before the trash throwing right after the game. And they had been running their mouth, and he kind of climbed up the back wall.
He did.
And was talking to him. And then after the game, they were throwing trash, and it kind of blew up into this thing. I like the leagues, like especially in international soccer. If a team's fans get out of line, the team can get fined.
Yep. They can be forfeited.
They can lose the ability to have fans in the stands.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how many people that would piss off? You have a bunch of fans get out of line, and Roger Manfred goes, "All right, Yankees, you can't have any fans in the first 10 rows, 20 rows around the entire stadium for a month. Those are your highest dollar seats. Those are the seats that make you your money on having the stadium open."
Yep.
And like the chaos that would ensue from that would be both insane and I personally think fucking hilarious. Cost of admission does not include permission to be an asshole.
No, it does not.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I agree. And those fans that could be identified should be banned for the rest of the season, maybe for life. I don't know. But
every ballpark, every ballpark
Indians player. I mean,
Guardians player.
Had he not? Sorry, Guardians. Just thank you, Guardians. That's gonna take a while to get used to that. The Guardians player that went up the fence, hasn't he been in the minors? Hasn't he dealt with fans from the minor leagues when they're doing so? You don't solve anything by going up there and instigating it even more by engaging with the fans.
I agree. Yep. And my question would be, and I don't have all of the information on the situation like I would like. I tried to research and I couldn't find it I was looking for. And I would assume there's going to be some stuff from the MLB about this as well, from the league as a whole. But you can't, as a player, you're supposed to be able to just say something either like go into the dugout and say, "Hey, look, these people out here are causing a problem. Somebody needs to go out and have a conversation with them." Or there's this specific person that needs to be removed. And they'll typically put the game on hold, security will walk out with you and you point them out, and then they take care of it from there. I don't know why that wasn't done and why it came to this point. But ultimately, the Yankees fans need to be held accountable.
Agree. And that player is lucky. That player is lucky that had this been in the 60s or the 50s, that player that climbed up the fence, the Yankees fans would have dragged him into the bleachers and kept him as a souvenir.
You go into now I know that the Raiders Stadium, especially now that they're in Las Vegas, isn't the same, but think about the black hole of the 90s.
I know the black hole very well.
Yeah, okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because that's Oakland. Yeah, the A's played there for a while, didn't they?
Yes. Well,
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
They still play there.
Yeah.
Well, but like you run up on a bunch of Raiders fans like that as a player at that point, you're getting dragged into the stands, and they're probably just going to try and beat the crap out of you just simply because they can, and it's going to be hard to get in and stop.
Yeah, they're going to turn you into their own private souvenir.
Yep. No, that's absolutely true. And so I feel like we need to we need to be doing more to hold people accountable for their actions. I'm not saying it's possible that they could have been that the player could have been the one escalating it the whole time, but ultimately the fans look bad because of how they handled it.
Yeah,
you don't do that.
And kudos to the Yankees for Aaron Judge and Giancarlo for going out there and getting the fans to to knock it off. I mean,
Absolutely.
They could have turned that over to security, and that would have just escalated even more. The fact that the players went out there, they were able to to calm it down. I didn't. There's not much video, a length of video that I've seen. I've just seen snippets here and there, but so I don't know how successful that was. But I mean, the fact they went out there, that's pretty darn good of them.
Yeah, it's a good look, and of course Stanton and Aaron Judge. Like, we may all make jokes about different things because they're on the Yankees, but ultimately they're terrific athletes. And by most reports, they seem to be like, okay, guys. So, and to have the forethought when there should be celebrating a walk-off win, because it was a legitimate walk-off win. I watched the end of that game. And to see that happen, and to see them immediately, instead of celebrating their win, running out to make sure, first of all, that the players that were out there, the Guardians players that were out there, didn't get in trouble and engage more, and also try to calm the fans down and chastise them for what was going on. Like, I think that definitely shows professionalism for both of those guys. And but at the same time, it's like you couldn't have faulted them if they'd have just celebrated their win, watched what was going on, stood in the back like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, and let security handle it, and then let it really escalate.
Exactly.
Kudos to their leadership. Those those are two leaders on the team, and they they showed it
for sure. And I think that's fantastic. Okay, so we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about something that may trigger Tony La Russa. So in the off chance that you are watching, A, fuck off, and B, don't watch this next segment, because we're going to talk about the Cubs beating the Pirates yesterday in beautiful fashion. We'll be right back.
No one pulls up like we do. No one does us like we do. Always go hard with this school. Welcome to the show, let's make moves. Nothing's gonna stop us, it's time to get rough. Turn the whole room up, it's never enough. Let's go, 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 let's go.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us. That first commercial was for the Sports Report, which airs every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on all of the Pinfall Stream channels. This features me along with Will, Dan the Dick Warner, and Gene going into all things sports related. Following that, our second ad was for the Sports Report After Dark, which airs immediately after Sports Report on all of the Pinfall Stream channels. And that is me and Dan the Dick Warner diving into the human side of sports, going into, how sports is a microcosm of society, and just kind of exploring different issues and how they relate to sports and humanity. That starts at 11:30 p.m. Eastern on all of the Pinfall channels. And then Geek Gauntlet, Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on the William Morgan Media Twitch page, diving into all things geek related, comic books, movies, and this, video games a little bit and so on. Check them out. And a big thank you to Raise Energy and repsports.com for sponsoring Pinfall Podcast. You can use the code Pinfall on their website for a discount. Definitely check them out. Raise Energy, great healthy energy drink options, and that you can actually also get at GNC. So as we dive back into this, yesterday we saw a record in Major League Baseball. The shutout by the widest margin in MLB history. The Cubs beat the Pirates yesterday, 21-0. So my question is, if you're the nurse that has to get Tony La Russa into the dugout every day, do you tell him about the score or do you just pretend it didn't happen?
Oh, just pretend.
Just pretend. No idea.
Yeah.
Just keep a defibrillator on tap just in case he actually sees it. No, we need you.
You know who was given a air high five after that game?
Who was?
Was Gabe Kapler of my Giants.
Yeah,
because he basically has told Major League Baseball, unwritten rule book. We don't recognize it. We don't care. We're going to play to win, and we don't care if it hurt your feelings. We're out to win. Mm-hmm. Not just win a game, but win series. So we're out to exhaust your pitching staff. No matter what the score is, we're going to steal. We're going to bunt, and so this unwritten rule. It's time that is finally put to bed.
There's so many things, and I definitely agree. I mean, this is not high school baseball. There's no mercy rule. These guys are professionals. I mean, if you want to switch out some of your bench guys to make it a little, to lighten it up a little bit, make sure they get a couple of at-bats in a pro game. I mean, that part, that making that kind of a change, I mean, that part kind of makes sense, especially if you want to make sure guys get rest. But in the same regard, you got to beat down that bullpen staff, because that doesn't just benefit you for this series, that throws them off for the rest of the season. And so especially for, these division opponents that you're going to play 20 games against, 18 to 20 games against, why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Because wearing them down now is going to pay dividends later.
Especially if you get through bullpen on a Friday night and you're playing a 4-game series, that's just golden.
Absolutely. The MLB wants 162 games. And you know what? Okay. But guess what? That means if I got a guy making $35.1 million a year, boy, you're going to be out there for 9 innings every game that you can, and you better hit that ball anytime it comes in your direction and you're on the plate. Just send it. Because that's what fans want to see.
And the players accept that also. I don't know one player that would say, I disagree with you on that.
They want to play.
Yeah.
They don't like looking back at that dugout when they're getting ready to take that next swipe and coach giving them the sign to take the pitch. They're like, no, I want to send this fastball that's about to come in here yard.
Yeah.
No, swing. Get it in play. Get it out of the park if you get the right contact. Swing.
Yeah.
Because it's not like if you get a pitcher through 8 innings without a no-hitter, or with a no-hitter, the team that's not getting the no-hitter, that hasn't gotten a hit, they're not just going to take those last 3 outs to give it to him.
No.
They're going to keep trying to get the hit, get some points on the board, and come back in that game. You had Boston yesterday get no hit for a full 9 innings. And then finally in the 10th finally in the 9th and 10th start to get things going. And then they still ended up losing off of a walk-off situation. But was Boston supposed to just let them score? Win the game because they were getting no hit?
No.
It's not how it works. Last I knew.
No.
I don't get the individuals that complain about that stuff. That's why, and for those of you watching, that's why I make a lot of jokes about Tony Lugerson, because he's a stickler for the unwritten rules. And quite frankly, I think it's crap. Because condoning the unwritten rules condones intentionally throwing a baseball at a player. We have enough injury risk with these guys getting hit accidentally. We don't need to add to it, especially with how much money these guys are making. Any coach that advocates for a player getting intentionally hit deserves to be suspended. Because there should not be a place for it in baseball. I understand that accidents happen. Especially like you had one of the reasons why the Red Sox lost today is Rich Hill was kind of hit and miss. And then I can't remember who it was that came up after him, but he immediately walked a guy, hit a guy, walked a guy. And then hit another guy. That quick. Because he couldn't locate, he didn't have control. So, of course, manager pulls him out, puts somebody else in, and they try to move on and recover, and they don't. They end up losing that game 5-2. But you've got, especially with spring training, shortened spring training, any advocating for somebody getting intentionally hit deserves a suspension. Because there's enough of a risk, enough guys getting injured. We saw what happened to Kevin Pillar last year. Because when you're, throwing to intentionally hit somebody, what if that's when you lose control and they do get hit in the face? You didn't mean to hit him in the face, but you did. I in my time sitting behind the plate, never once did I call for a player to get intentionally hit. And the one time the guys were calling for it on my team, I told them that I would walk off the field. There's no place for it. And when you consider that, when you think it's okay to take that cheap shot, you're showing things about your character that you really shouldn't show to people. You should keep those tucked in. It's useless. It doesn't prove anything. Just somebody that ends up with a bruise on their leg or their side, broken rib. A lot of injuries that can come from a broken rib. Get a broken rib, chip comes out, pierced lung. You did work as an EMT. What's that look like?
Not good. Not good.
Exactly. That's one that I can't say enough. There's no room for it.
I'm still in support of the teams taking care of business on the field. It's quick, it's fast, it's done. That's the only part of the quote unwritten rule that I still support. But absolutely no headhunting whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
When I pitched, I didn't have the control, number one. Headhunting,
which it's hard to do that, for any pitcher to have control like that. But
next week when Stephan returns, we need to ask him about this, because him being pitching for the Yankees, I'm sure he's got some thoughts on both sides of that.
I'm sure. No, and I would be interested. And I get the people that are okay with it because it's a way of paying it back, paying back what happens. A way of leaving it on the field, as you talked about. Honestly, I like the bench clearing brawls more than anything. If you're going to hit somebody, let them square up. Like, I remember you remember when Jose Bautista got laid out and everybody cheered?
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with that because he got hit in the face with a fist. Just clean shot. It was beautiful. I cried tears of joy because I can't stand him either. But he had the chance to square up. In fact, I think he was the one that ran at the guy that laid him out, if I remember correctly. So more power to him on that. It's like hockey. I think one of the things that keeps hockey relevant is because they're like, let him fight it out, make him sit for 2 minutes, put him back in, let's see what happens. I think that's beautiful.
Well, they used to have the enforcers that their skill was being an enforcer, putting the fear of God into their team. That, oh my God, if we step across this line, we're going to get executed by this guy that can barely skate, but could play linebacker in the NFL, and has no conscience whatsoever about seeing your blood on the rink.
Exactly. Because like you want to see a beautiful development of an enforcer, go watch the Mighty Ducks series, the movies, the old movies, not this new TV show. I haven't watched that. I can't advocate for it. But seriously, like seeing the way that Gordon Bombay developed his enforcers, like it's absolutely beautiful. But
do you remember Nolan Ryan and Robin Ventura?
Yeah.
I interviewed him just a week before that happened, so I missed out on getting a chance to talk to him again. But if you watch that video, people, listeners, if you watch that video, there's like a second where Ventura, as he's heading out, almost comes to his senses before running out to the mound, and then he's like loses his sensibilities and charges Nolan Ryan. Now, when I interviewed Nolan Ryan in the off season, he has a cattle ranch that he's very active in, and he likes to wrestle down steers for fun and for branding.
That doesn't, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
So when he got Robin Ventura in a headlock and just started pummeling him, I just pictured Robin Ventura being a little steer getting ready to get branded, and he got branded by Nolan Ryan's fist 3 or 4 times. I mean, it's like he ran right into Nolan Ryan's, grabbing him by the neck, and it's just like, it's hilarious. But there's this second just before he runs out there, thinking, what am I doing? I better not do this. But then it's like, oh my God, people are watching. I better do this. And to his detriment.
To his detriment. I remember the first time I watched that. Do you remember the UFC fight, UFC 100? It was Frank Mir and Brock Lesnar. Do you remember that fight?
Not really, no.
So no. Brock Lesnar is a former WWE wrestler, and his hands are like the size of those plastic lunchboxes that we used to take to school when we were kids. Yeah. Big dude. Like I've interacted with him in person because of the WrestleMania that I worked. And he's absolutely huge. Big dude. And in this fight, if you go watch the video of the fight, it was Brock Lesnar and Frank Mir on YouTube. Lesnar is just pummeling him, and it looks like a lunchbox hitting a doll. Just beating him. And that was the first thing I thought of. Because I know size-wise, like Nolan Ryan's a little closer to Robert Ventura than the separation between Frank Mir and Brock Lesnar was. But it was just the first thing I thought of, because once you said it, once Nolan Ryan got a hold of Robin Ventura, it would it wasn't even fair. It was like it wasn't even fair.
It wasn't fair. I think he hit him like 3 times real fast, boom, boom, boom. And then I'm sure the conversation was probably like, okay, have you learned your lesson? Because I'm gonna let up now, because you're getting your blood all over my uniform.
And didn't he finish the pitching outing with the blood on his uniform still?
Yes, he did.
That's what I thought.
Oh yeah.
Oh. So I wanted to, before we get to your story, one last thing I want to talk about. When we were talking previously, Red Sox pitcher that I mentioned, that's a young guy that has been, that I felt like was going to get some starts by the end of the year, Garrett Whitlock, he got to start yesterday. And despite, like I said, that was a That was just a crazy game in general because of Boston not getting any hits until the 10th inning. Oh, hold on, my lights are falling. Just a second. There we go. Don't fall. Please don't fall. Sorry, you guys are looking at my arm, possibly my armpit. There we go. We saw Garrett throw some absolutely fantastic baseball. He had a .66 ERA, 7 strikeouts, and only gave up 1 hit in the 4 innings that he pitched.
Not too shabby
for your first professional start.
Yeah.
And again, just to remind everybody, Boston got Garrett Whitlock for free, basically, through the Rule 5 draft from the Yankees. And he's now, I mean, like I said, I strongly believe he will be in the rotation by the end of the year, especially because Tanner Houck is not as consistent as Boston needs him to be. And so I think if Garrett stays in the zone, Tanner's going to come out of the bullpen and Garrett is going to start. Because I think he's one of the biggest question marks. Because once you get Sale back, you're going to be in a much better. Once they get Sale back, they're going to be in a much better position. But I still definitely feel like you have, you can't. They've got to beef up their pitching. Their pitching is done pretty well. The reason Boston is struggling record-wise and results-wise is because of the fact that their offense is not doing what it should. Trevor Story's hitting below 200 right now.
I'm so surprised about that.
I am too. It's, the numbers that we're seeing these guys put down is really disappointing. Now we've seen some guys like Bobby Dahlbeck has had some struggles this year already, and he was great last year. And I think that he's got a lot of potential with that lineup, especially over at especially being over at first base, being a rookie at first base, like everybody thinks it's easy, but it's not, because you get those line drives that come your direction. You've got to be able to react and keep that from turning into a long single or a double. And, he's hitting, okay, so he has gotten it up to 234, or so Story is got it up a little bit. He's hitting 234, but Bobby Dahlbeck's only hit 151. Kike Hernandez is hitting 180. Christian Vasquez is hitting 189. Arroyo's hitting 179. Travis Shaw has not gotten a hit yet this season, which just, I don't know why they still have him. So yeah, that's just, it's crazy, man. Okay, so before we wrap up, Craig, the infamous baseball mage of our show, has a story to tell us from his time as a baseball writer and some amazing former pro ballers that he has gotten to interact with. What do you got for us this week?
Okay, this story involves Frank Grossetti, the Crow from the Yankees, Joe DiMaggio, and myself. A little background. Frank Grossetti, as a kid, lived in South San Francisco, and then he moved to Stockton, California, where he met up with my grandfather as childhood friends. And after every single season playing for the Yankees and later as a coach for the Seattle Pilots, Frank Grossetti would return to Stockton, California, where he made his home. And as a kid growing up, I got to know Frank Grossetti. And I remember a time when I tried to lift one of Babe Ruth's bats that Frank had, because Frank at one time had been the Babe's roommate. So he had a nice little collection of Babe Ruth's bats, broken bats, and some old hats and a glove and all that from Babe Ruth. Oh yeah. And so I mean, I tried to lift this bat, couldn't do it. I was just a little kid. But so through the years, I got to know Mr. Grossetti, and we'd see him quite often when I went to visit my grandparents. And then he always called me Kid. I don't know if you can remember my name or whatever. I was always Kid. And my grandfather's to him was Red, because my grandfather had grandpa had red hair. So, but he would tell these stories about Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. And I mean, Frank was in the Yankees organization for about a little over 43 years as a player and a coach. And then he went to become a coach with the Seattle Pilots, I believe their first season. Then when he finished his career, he would spend a lot of time at the Oakland Coliseum when the Yankees were in town to play the A's. And fast forward to now, I'm an adult and I'm writing for Baseball Card Magazine part-time, and I'm covering Major League Baseball, doing features on players and stuff. And I'd see Frank, quite often in the press room, and he'd say, "Hey, kid," and come on over to the table, and I'd be sitting there with Charlie Silvera, who was Yogi Berra's backup catcher.
Wow.
Who still got all the World Series rings, but didn't get much playing time. But he was there. He was a scout for I forget which team, but there's Charlie Silvera, Frank Rossetti, Hank Sauer, Charlie Fox, the Giants at one time manager. I got to know a lot of these former managers and players and coaches and scouts just through being introduced through Frank Rossetti. Now, most people know that as a writer, when you're covering Major League Baseball or the NFL or the NBA, there's a rule on your pass that says no autographs, absolutely no autographs, period. And we as writers always honored that. I mean, there's a fine line between being a professional and being a fan.
Right.
And so, but Frank didn't understand that rule. So one day I'm behind the batting cages at the Coliseum. The Yankees are in town, and I'm chatting with I believe it was Terry Steinbach at the time. And Frank comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, kid, follow me." And I follow Frank Rossetti. We go to the Yankees. Yeah. We go to the Yankees dugout, and there's Joe DiMaggio sitting on the dugout. And Frank goes, he goes to Joe DiMaggio. He called him Joe D. He goes, "Hey, Joe D." Now remember, Frank Rossetti, he saw all the greats come through. I mean, he played with Babe Ruth,
right?
Played with Gehrig, and he watched Joe DiMaggio come up as a rookie. He watched Mickey Mantle come up as a rookie. He watched Yogi Berra. He saw the greats.
Right.
Whitey Ford, as a kid. So I mean, he is very right to call Joe DiMaggio Joe D. Because he knows him as being just a snot-nosed little rookie that. So there's the great Joe DiMaggio sitting by himself, just watching batting practice, and Frank goes up to Joe DiMaggio and says, "Hey, Joe D, I want you to meet this kid here. He's a good kid. I know his grandfather. We grew up together as kids." And he goes, "Kid, come here." So I come down the steps, and Joe DiMaggio offers his hand. I shake his hand, and Kathy Jacobson, wherever you are, Kathy Jacobson, you are my hero. This woman was a PR director at the time of baseball when very few women were in the front office, let alone a PR director.
Yeah.
She was so patient with me and all the writers and all the media, because we can be quite demanding. She was also on the field, and she was taking this in. And Frank goes, "Hey, kid, you still got that Hall of Fame plaque postcard of Joe D?" And I told him I had one, and I showed it to him, and just as I said, I've always admired Joe DiMaggio, and stuff. And I said, "Well, yeah, I do." And he says, "Well, what are you waiting for? Give it to Joe D. He'll sign it." And I look over at Kathy, known as KJ, and she's giving me a look like, "Oh, no, you're not about to do what I think you're about to do." And so I don't. And Frank goes, "Kid, come on, what are you waiting for?" And Joe is motioning. He's already got a Sharpie out from his jacket. He's motioning like, "Come on, give me the card. I'll sign it," like that, and stuff. So what do? Do I obey the rules and avoid the wrath of KJ, or do I listen to Frank cajoling me to give the postcard to Joe DiMaggio, who's patiently sitting there waiting for this kid to hand him a card to be signed, which most people would be killing to be able to do, right?
Right.
So I look back over at KJ, and she's just like, your move. And so I pull the postcard out. I hand it to Joe DiMaggio. He signs it. I shake his hand again. And Frank goes, "That wasn't so bad, was it?" And I go, "No, it was." I said, "Mr. DiMaggio, it was very nice meeting you. Thank you very much, sir." And then I said, "Frank, I'll see you later." So I head off away from KJ, who, high heels and all, is following close behind me. And she comes up to me, and she said the coolest thing. She said, if I ever see you do that again, I will pull your pass. Do you understand?" I said, "Yes, KJ, I understand. I'm sorry." And then she looked around and she smiled and said, "Craig, that's Joe DiMaggio. I would have done the exact same thing." So
you got to make the
are,
appearance that you're doing your
yeah,
job, but at the same time, it's
yeah.
like, look, I get it.
So wherever you are, KJ, Kathy Jacobson, if someone's in the sound of my voice that knows where she's at, please look me up on Facebook. You are my hero. You were ahead of your time for women in the field of sports. I'm so proud to have gotten to know you and to work with you. So wherever you are, I so much appreciate you. And I'm glad that together you and I have this story to share now on this podcast.
It's a great story, and in to some extent, like I can relate to that a little bit. When I used to do work in the music industry as a stagehand, like we didn't have like a pass with rules on it. It was just when you got into the industry, it was you don't ask for autographs.
Was that an unwritten rule?
Unwritten, yes, because we didn't have like a rule book that we had to sign.
Yeah.
But if you asked for an autograph and it was found out, you got walked out and you didn't get called back.
Wow.
One time. And so I had, I was working with Kenny Chesney and Keith Urban on their first stadium tour that they did. And I was a stagehand. I was a carpenter, what they call a carpenter. So once the seal got put up, it was my job to make sure everything was on the stage where it was supposed to be for Kenny and Keith. It was to help with that. I wasn't just like the head carpenter, but that was one of my things. So I worked on their stuff. And I had never met either one of them, and I'd been in the industry long enough that I just, if I was in a production meeting and they were sitting in there, unless I needed to speak to them directly, I didn't make eye contact. I just focused on my job because they're people too. They've got stuff to do. After we get done with the show, once everybody's relaxed, everybody hangs out and we all get to tell stories. And I've got memories with those guys and most of the other artists that I work with that I can't share that are just absolutely amazing. And so I want to say we were somewhere on the East Coast, and we had a show delayed by a day because of rain. We was an outdoor stadium, and they were trying to get the field dry, so we put the stage up, and so it delayed everything by a full day. And we're sitting there in that extra day that we ended up being in the area, and we're all behind. And one of the things that they had on the tour was there was a ping pong table, and Kenny Chesney loves to play ping pong. That's a random fact for those of you that are fans of him. Dude loves to play ping pong. Well, he used to also drink copious amounts of rum. When I say copious, I mean copious with a capital K. It was a lot. And what would happen is he would get going, and then we would all take turns playing ping pong, losing to this guy that is relatively inebriated. And he would just knock us all down. Well, I'm standing there one day just kind of watching, drinking a beer. That one day just watching, drinking a beer. And Keith walks up right next to me. And I kind of looked over and I realized he was there and I didn't flinch or anything. I just looked back forward and he goes, "Who's winning?" And I kind of side-eyed and I realized that he was talking to me. He was looking right at me. And so I told him. I just kind of returned over. We ended up spending 5-10 minutes just talking. And one of the nicest guys. And Kenny comes over and he'd whipped my ass at ping pong multiple times. So he and I, he quacks over, he goes, "Tony, you talking to Keith?" I said, "Yeah, I had no chance to meet him yet." And we're sitting there BS and he goes, "Wasn't that, we were talking about this, wasn't there a song of Keith that you liked?" And I said,
Oh no.
"Yeah." And Keith goes, "Which one?" And I said, and I'm just kind of looking, and my stage manager, she's off to the side behind me and she's just within earshot. And I was like, "Oh, where the blacktop ends." And I'm just kind of side-eyeing her and she's kind of just like, "It's time to go."
Yeah.
Like slowly motioning me. And we're going through. He's like, "Oh yeah, that was a fun one to play." And, I enjoyed doing that on stage. And Kenny was like, "You should sign something for him. All these guys should have something, like sign his pass or something."
Okay.
And the stage manager's eyes got really big. And I said, and I literally, because when Kenny was drunk, he didn't understand the word no. And it's not to disrespect him like in a rapey sense, but like he just, when he wanted something, he got it. He's Kenny Chesney, so he gets what he wants. It's fine. He's earned that. And I just said, "Hey, Kenny," I said, "I need you to understand." I said, I don't want to lose my job. I said, "I love you guys both. It's just enough that I get to work with you and put that on my resume." I said, "I appreciate it, but I don't want to get in trouble." And he goes, "I'll tell him you can't be fired." And I said, "You don't have that power." And he just kind of drops it. He goes, "Yeah, I know. Okay." And he walks away. And Keith is just sitting there laughing. He goes, "If you want something, it's okay. I'll tell him I can do it." I said, "No." I said, "I've gotten to work with you." I said, "Tell you what," I said, "after the show tomorrow night, we're all hanging around. Come sit next to me while we have beers and we'll talk sports or whatever." And he did. Seriously, one of the nicest guys. Happened a few times after that too. I have a lot of respect for Keith. Kenny's a man-child in the most respectful way. Love that guy. I respect the hell out of him. I watched him pull money out of his own pocket to help people out of situations. But he's kind of a big baby too. But it's okay. All right. So, in the world of baseball, anything else before we wrap up for you? Did you hear me?
I hear you. Yes.
Okay. In the world of baseball, is there anything else before we wrap up? Is there anything else on your mind tonight?
No, I think we covered it quite succinctly. Succinctly. Can't say the word. But there you go, trying to get all proper and everything. Classic.
By the way, for anybody comments, I understand that copious does not start with a K. It was a joke. Just so I don't want to have like a bunch of comments. Copious doesn't start with a K. I know, it was a joke. Okay. For me, not really. I'm gonna go watch the Suns. Hopefully they can win against the Pelicans tonight. Would love to see them up 3-1. I have Suns picked for the West in the NBA, so we'll see what happens.
I'd love to see my Warriors meet your Suns.
I think that's where it's going, especially now.
So. Yeah, I think so.
I think it's where it's going. I know it doesn't look like we're going to see the Nets pass this round.
No.
Nets are giving Boston a head start on a sweep. And especially it's the sign that they don't think they're going to win it is because Ben Simmons is not going to play.
Yep.
They're still sitting him even though he's been cleared for contact and everything. So that says to me that they was like, you know what? Just be ready for next year.
Yep.
That's just not acceptable. They've given up. There's rumors of Kyrie running out or KD winning out or both of them. Like, come on, guys. But, all right. I'm going to eat some pizza, watch some basketball. Don't forget, you can catch me live tomorrow night on the Sports Report at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Pinfall Streams pages as well as in the Sports Report group. And then following that tomorrow night, 11:30 p.m. Eastern, Sports Report After Dark. Definitely check us out and support us. We are now live on YouTube, and our episodes will continue to be updated on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. The episodes will be live, hopefully by Monday night. Just a matter of me not being lazy and getting it done tonight. Because it takes like 24 hours for it to show up. But also, if you follow me on TikTok at FGD7, spelled out, I do MLB Morning Minutes every day. This is the videos that I've been posting on our Facebook page. I do those, and you can see those on TikTok. It's a great way to stay up to date because I will sometimes be posting reaction videos when stuff happens, just because I can. And it's easy to do it on TikTok, and I'll try to get some on YouTube, but I don't know. I got to figure that out. But it was a pleasure to work with you tonight, sir. Stefan, happy birthday. I hope you're enjoying your time with your family and that you will be able to join us again soon. If he keeps coming on, I'm going to have to get the graphic for the back updated to have his name on it too.
I agree. I agree.
Oh, but all right, man. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great night.
Night, everybody.